it. Like, I was watching it, I was nervous, and I knew what happened.
So delighted to welcome today Miles Glaspole from Australia. Hi, Miles.
G'day, Gareth. Thanks for having me on.
Now, Miles, you're an interesting guy. I've done a bit of Googling and a bit of digging around.
Nothing bad, I hope.
You are a Eurovision fan.
I am.
You've written on a quiz show.
Written for a few, yeah.
Yeah, you're a TikToker. You're an Aussie Rules fanatic.
Yeah.
And the latest is that you are a Mastermind champion of Mastermind Australia. Congratulations with that.
Thank you so much. I just it actually, something I just saw on my table reminded me of that. Hold on, what's this?
Careful.
No, well, I'll give the people what they want. There's the Australian one. For the Brits out there, it's an Indigenous Australian etching done by an artist called Dennis Golding, as compared to the sort of the ancient reliefs I think you have on your one over there. So yeah, that's our one.
Fantastic. So there are some similarities there. Before we go on to Mastermind, which is interesting in itself, for obvious reasons, but I'd be interested to know how quizzing came into your life.
So I just grew up with it. I was hooked on. We had Sale of the Century here that aired at about 7 p.m. and I would always want to watch that. My parents would want to watch the news or something. I'd just be like, no, put on Sale of the Century. I was obsessed and hooked on it. My parents used to drag me along to trivia nights. I don't know why, just like charity ones. And I really found it was something I was actually good at. Like, I always knew my capitals. I always knew my, Olympic host cities was one of the classic ones that you get into when you're a very wee boy. And then, I had cousins go on quiz shows. I had cousins go on a later relaunch of Sale of the Century, and Australia invented this sort of condensed version of Millionaire called Hot Seat. I had a few family members go on that. So I'd always wanted to do it. And then I finally got on our local version of The Chase when it launched here in 2015. So it's just always been a huge part of my life. I worked as a writer for The Chase for a while. I was on a show. I don't know how familiar you are with the Australian TV quiz landscape. We've got a show called Hard Quiz here, which is sort of it's sort of a blend of. It's like if Mastermind was hosted by Jimmy Carr. It's you go on with your expert topic, but the host just rips on you for it the whole show. And I became a writer on that show after. So I was in the first season of that, and then I became a writer on the second season because I was in my comedy stages, and I thought, well, this would be a good job. And then I became a freelance quiz writer from there. So I've worked on that show, I've worked on The Chase, I've worked on a few other bits and bobs here and there. And it's just been a huge part of my life the whole way through, really. It's a nice through thread to realize that, growing up in Melbourne, I've realized I'm talking for about 5 minutes here, but
carry on. That's fine.
You grew up, Melbourne is sport obsessed. We love AFL, Aussie Rules, we love cricket, we love any sporting event that comes here. We've got the Commonwealth Games here in 3 years, I think. So you grow up wanting to be good at the sport, and it's kind of handy when you realize that your sport is quizzing.
Did you have any, did you win on these shows, or was it really just kind of your performances on there that kind of alerted people to you?
So when I went on The Chase, I was 19. I was then the youngest person to have been on the Australian version of The Chase, and we didn't win. The super nerd, Issa Schultz, recently went over and did Beat the Chasers over there. Currently on our version of Strictly. He is a phenomenal quizzer. He was Australian champion about 6-7 times in a row. So he's really, really unstoppable when he gets on a run, and he did. So didn't win that. I actually finished second in my hard quiz episode. I was later told that I'd had the best audition score of anyone, but given it comes down to your expert topic, I had Doctor Who, which I imagine this is a largely British audience, so they can appreciate that. And my opponent had Field Marshals of the British Army. He just knew his stuff so well. And Doctor Who, I was kind of going into it hoping to rely on my upbringing with it and didn't really do much study for it. And Mark, his name was just so on top. It went to a tiebreaker and he won. So that was the year after The Chase. So I was 20, and then I got the writing job the following year, and I was still 20 when I worked on it then.
So fast forward a few years, and because Mastermind's relatively new in Australia compared to here, it started in the early 70s here. But having been on hard quiz where you've got that specialist subject area, and you'd seen how somebody had been able to nail it, did that give you sort of lessons and thoughts on how you should tackle Mastermind and its specialist subject?
Absolutely. So the difference with Mastermind as well is that Mastermind sends you the sources they're going to draw from, so that there's no absolutely left field ones that you can say, that's not really my topic or whatever. You know what you're going into. And I was rubbish at studying in school. I was rubbish at studying in university, but the hardest I ever studied is for my Mastermind heats. So my topic was Tears for Fears going in. I just had a few lyric sheets. I had a few articles. I had a lot of things to go on, and I just knuckled down and really made sure I covered all bases. And going into that with the quiz writing experience as well helps you pick out what you think would be used as a question by the writers of such a show.
Yeah, because you're thinking about, this is an entertainment program as well. So what is going to make an interesting question for the people at home, rather than just a very hard, very obscure, dull thing that they could ask you?
Yeah, I think there's a balance there, because when I worked on Hard Quiz is an 8 p.m. Primetime entertainment show, and it's hosted by comedians. So they try and lean more heavily into that. I remember on the writing team, so it was a similar writing team to a show. That company produces another show called The Weekly, which is more of our answer to a Daily Show with Jon Stewart or John Oliver sort of thing. And they have what they call get ready with your sense of beep here, but your fuck me moments. When you hear a fact, you go, fuck me. But for the 8 p.m. time slot of Hard Quiz, we had what we were called wins, well I nevers. So
nice.
whereas Mastermind, I think, leans genuinely more into that, just sort of drill down on a niche as opposed to make it guessable for the people at home.
Because Mastermind Australia has a different format in terms of compared to the UK. It's run across a week, isn't it? I think you have 4 heats across a week, and then a final at the end of the week to get you into the semi-finals and then the finals. It also has an additional element we don't have.
Yeah, I had to look into this, because I stay on top of what the big British, I said Quidditch, that's going well, British quiz formats are generally. So, I'm well across my Only Connect and my Pointlesses and my Richard Osman's Houses of Games. So I knew about Mastermind. I grew up watching the sketch from the Two Ronnies. Yes. So I knew Mastermind pretty well. I think I used to have, I think when I used to work at a corporate job, my boss would ring me, and my boss scared the living shit out of me. And my ringtone for her was the Mastermind theme. So I was very across it. But yeah, I had to Google the slow burn round on the day of recording. Be like, oh gosh, what even is it? But for those unfamiliar, it's a Who Am I style round. It's 10 clues about a thing. So I think there's 4 categories. There's town, person, band, place. It can sort of vary by week. And 4th place picks the category, third, etc. And you just count down. Clue 1 is worth 10 points, clue 2 is worth 9 points, and so on and so forth. And I was surprised to learn that was an Australian original round format for Mastermind here.
And we come across it in pub quizzes here, because it's the sort of thing that allows a team that's kind of behind to catch up if they're brave. But I guess there's a lot of jeopardy on it in something like Mastermind. You can know your specialist subject, do well at general knowledge, but the randomness of one of your competitors knowing it on the first clue versus you floundering to sort of clue 5, it can really put the cat amongst the chickens.
Yeah, I was very lucky. So one of my opponents in the grand final had film. He picked film because he had films. He was choosing Train Spotting as his expert subject, and I think I got it on clue. So on the 4-point clue that it was Notting Hill, and I was really thinking, oh gosh, I'm right in the thick of things here if I got it there. And then mine came up and it was person, and I was really nervous. And then after 2 clues, the first clue was this person has been nominated for induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 3 times, but never accepted. The second clue was this person wore the first headset wireless mic, and it really rang a bell for me. And then clue 3 was this person did their only tour in 1979, and I knew it was Kate Bush.
I'd like to answer. Kate Bush. That is correct.
And luckily for me, Kate Bush was one of my backup topics.
Right.
Had it, well, Tears for Fears, Kate Bush, that, you know, everybody wants to rule the world and running up that hill. It's basically 1985 in a nutshell. But yeah, so it can totally come down to luck, but also I think the clues they write, I know a couple of the writers on the show, and the clues they write are broad enough that it covers a lot of bases. Like Serena Williams, there was a couple of weeks ago, her first clue was this person's acting credits include CSI Miami, you know, and so you're thinking, oh gosh, is it David Caruso or something like that? Serena Williams. It's arguably more intense than any of the other rounds on Mastermind, because it's you know, Mastermind normally it's question. There's not much time to really, you know, like Hitchcock, not let the bomb go off. There's a lot of time for that. Whereas this, it's one clue every 10 to 15 seconds. So it really like sucks you into the screen when you're watching it. Like I was watching it, I was nervous and I knew what happened.
So you said earlier that you'd never worked so hard learning stuff as you did for Mastermind. What techniques, how did you go about it, trying to get that stuff into your brain?
So again, I've written for a show like Mastermind, so I think I had a good insight into digging through sources and just finding those questions that really pop and that are most likely to show up. So for Tears of Fears, I think I had a book. Again, they send you your sources, so you know what to draw from. So I had a book, a few articles, the lyrics for a few songs, a few music videos, and basically I just went through all of them and just tried to pluck as many data points as I could. So this music video has a person wearing a notable red dress, and this, you know, Pale Shelter has a crocodile in it. That's going to come up or something. And then the book, same thing applies. Just literally speed reading and thinking, where's what looks like a fact, and rather just someone saying this was very hard. You know, you can kind of learn, especially if you've been working in quizzing for sort of the extent the time I have, coming up on, 6 years this year. It's just, you can learn to really sort like potential question from non-potential question. So yeah, it was a case of, the book I had to read was a 93-page book on The Hurting, the first Tears of Fears album, and I was going through an ebook in the cab to the studio, just like no. And one of the facts, and I think this was the one this is like my biggest fluke of anything, is that there was a fact about the director of the music video for Mad World, and I was just like, that name, just hold on to that name, why not? And it came up. So yeah, sometimes you can fluke it with Mastermind.
So you pulled out his facts. Did you put them into lists? Did you put them into flashcards? Or
yeah, I'm an Excel spreadsheet man.
Yeah.
I'm very big on my, you know, rote learning via spreadsheet, highlighted in green, highlighted in bold if you've done it once, highlighted in green if you've done it twice. Grand finals was great for that, because grand finals, there's only so many things you can draw on for each. So the attendance, the teams playing, the margin, the highest goal scorer, there's all these sorts of, the entertainment. So there's all these sorts of things where you can just, that's 23 or 24, due to a technicality, 24 games essentially that you just have to know the line for. And that was much easier than Dark, where it's 26 episodes of TV, which has like important plot things happening in every scene. Bit easier than that. So yeah, I'm a spreadsheeter. I'm trying to get across all the data points, and then hopefully it comes up as a question.
I think it's always important with Mastermind to know when you've covered everything, and to have a subject that's constrained, you know, has a beginning, has an end. You know, it's not going to be anything about the semi-finals. It's not going to be anything about, you know, 1999. So, you know your patch. You can look at all the scorers, all the players, or, you know, there might be a lot of it, but at least you know that you've done it all. So.
And that's something, I think, the advantage of something like Mastermind, where you can really say what you want as your topic, and they will work around that and not say, can you broaden it, or can you, whereas something like Hard Quiz, when I was writer, we had a guy come on with the topic just astronomy, and that's the whole night sky and everything in it. So he was so buggered from the start. He got asked about, I don't think he got anything right, because we just kept finding stuff that he just had no point of reference for. And yeah, so it's really nice, especially, and this is a good tip for anyone who wants to go on either Mastermind in UK or Australia, or Hard Quiz in Australia, is just really narrow down what you want to ask about. Oh no, what you want to be asked about, sorry. It's like there was a man they had two applicants in the same season. One was Roman emperors, and the other one was the Julio-Claudian dynasty. which is the first 5 emperors of Rome.
Mm.
They're going to go with the second one because it's not only easier for him, but it's easier for the writers as well.
Yeah. No, good tips. Now, so when you went on Mastermind, before you sat in that chair for the first time, what were your hopes or expectations? Did you realistically think, I've got a shot at the final, or were you just thinking, please don't make a fool of myself on national TV in the first round?
Well, yeah, my TikTok channel is me quizzing. It's me being a quiz master, and I've done that for 2 years now, and I've kind of established an audience online who think I don't know if you can automatically attribute hosting a quiz show to being good at quizzing, but my audience being younger kind of automatically made that assumption. So I was just hoping that I didn't let them down in a way. But yeah, I again, no expectations. There were some fierce quizzes even just in the first week. So just every time I know it's a cliche, but every step you take, you sort of are grateful and you can't believe you've made it that far. And I mean, it's I still sometimes look at it and I just can't quite believe it's on my shelf, so it's got some of the confetti from the actual end of the show in it.
Nice.
What I maintain yeah.
So how did the final play out then?
So the final is, in Australia, it's 3 rounds. There's 2 minutes on your third specialist subject for the season. There's a slow burn, and then there's an extended 2-minute general knowledge round. The specialist subject round, I had dropped a couple, so I think I got 15 from memory. And then 2 of my opponents my opponents were The Book Thief, Marcus Zuzak's novel, The Trainspotting 1 and 2, and the Baz Luhrmann's Red Curtain trilogy.
Okay.
And they were really sharp quizzes. I've seen one at the semi-finals because it was recorded the same day as mine, and I knew that everyone going into it was really sharp and really good at their quizzing. So I got 15, and then the 2 of them got 14, and another got 12, I think. So that was the caliber that we had going into it. And then the slow burn was the Kate Bush question. And the guy William, whose topic was Trainspotting 1 and 2, who I perceived to be the sharpest general knowledge quizzer, he got that Notting Hill question, but he got it wrong.
Right.
He guessed Bridget Jones's Diary with about 3 clues to go because he wasn't quite on top of it. And so I felt a bit lucky there that he managed to come up short. And then the other 2 got 5, and then I got Kate Bush with 8. So it kind of pushed me just that little bit further ahead. And then general knowledge just made sure I didn't drop any of the silly ones. And luckily managed to pull a couple out that I wasn't expecting to think of. But yeah, it was 34, 30, 25, 24 or something like that in the end. So yeah, there was the whole thing as well. And this is something I didn't realize I had in me, was that I'd been Googling meditation techniques for a completely unrelated reason the month before starting Mastermind. And I learned about this thing called the full body scan, which is where you close your eyes and you just sort of think of each body part. So you think shoulder, shoulder, knee, knee, foot, foot, leg, leg, or eyes, whatever you need to think about, just to kind of get you right in your head, be present in the moment. And I tried it just like, the classic meditation, sit and do it for 10 minutes, and it totally didn't work for me. But then just in the first episode, I was like, do that. Something in the back of my brain told me to do that. And it really actually helped in the moment on the set, was actually having mindfulness just when you're there on the set. It made me find a few answers I don't think I would have found otherwise. So another, all things quiz top tip, meditation works, annoyingly.
Well, certainly if you're trying to draw things from your mind, you don't want other clutter and other stuff going on, do you? So
and I'm a very cluttered-minded person normally, so it was really helpful to get. I am so in awe of people who get in the zone when they're doing things, and it wasn't until I went on Mastermind I realized that's a place where I can get in a zone. So yeah, it's a person that I wish I could reach for more often, but only comes up on nationally televised quiz shows, unfortunately.
But you have a Glaspole to prove that it actually happened.
It's still here. I keep hallucinating.
What was it like knowing you'd won, but not being able to tell anybody, having that bowl in front of you as a reminder, and probably this thing bursting to get out of you, but having to keep that secret until it was all broadcast?
Well, so I'm recently unsingle, and the only person I really wanted to tell was my girlfriend, and I got to tell her. So we've been long distance for 3 months now because she lives in Sweden and I live in Australia. Potentially by the time you put it up, she'll be here with me. So, but she was the only person I wanted to tell, and they let me tell her. So I got to FaceTime her. We'd finished filming just as it hit about 7, 8 a.m. in Sweden. So, and she was like, "How did it go?" And the producer handed me the bowl on the FaceTime and threw some confetti over me. And so that was it. But yeah, no, keeping it secret was, I'm the worst secret keeper. Like I was saying to people, so finals week, the semi-final is on Tuesday and the grand final's on Friday. Just like, to watch it, just to know that. But everyone was like, yeah, so you won, didn't you? So, but I did say I had promoted hard quiz just as passionately, and I didn't win that. So, I don't know. I think I tried to baffle where I could, but I don't know if my poker face is as good as I think it is.
Now you mentioned it in slightly earlier, the TikTok thing. You are TikTok 10 quiz. How did that come about? Like
everyone my age, got completely sucked into TikTok in lockdowns. I thought it was a wonderful place where it's actually it's kind of our ideas marketplace, TikTok, Gen Z. It's our ideas marketplace. It's our TV. A lot more Gen Zers just channel hopping on TikTok rather than on TV. And I've spoken to people from TikTok who say that's actually their business model. And I knew I wanted to do TikToks because, I'm attention seeking enough to go on Mastermind. So I'm attention seeking enough to do TikTok. And I had tried a few things. I tried something about Australian politics because I have a politics degree, and I tried something about, my quarantine trip to Darwin, and it was kind of, but then I had a friend say to me, you should do something about quizzing because you work in that space. It's what you do as a hobby. You actually know this well. So, and I'd seen a lot of videos because TikTok has a function called duet, where you just hit the button and you can record yourself alongside an existing video. And I'd seen a lot of videos of people doing that it's called doing duets. I've seen a lot of people doing it for singing, where it's like, I'll sing this line, then you sing this line. And it's sort of prompting people to record themselves singing a certain line of a song. And part of me was just like, well, that could definitely work for quizzing because as long as you keep it quick fire. And I'd written chase questions before, so I was familiar with the general pace of a quick fire round and a cash builder, that sort of thing. So it was just a matter of taking those skills and putting them on TikTok, but adapting the questions a bit so it was slightly more of a pop culture bent, because that is more gettable for the audience, slightly more of a Gen Z bent as well, which I think was important because a lot of people Gen Z just watch these shows. Now, people say Gen Z and I feel like, I don't know. Anyway, people, they're not used to seeing things they're interested in come up on quiz shows. They're not used to seeing YouTubers and TikTok creators and reactors and all those people come up as questions. And I think that's partially due to the sort of cultural gatekeeping that the older generations can do a bit, and partially due to the fact that it's just no frame of reference for that to be written, I guess. So I was kind of really excited to be able to ask about those things in a more legacy format, like the quickfire quiz show sort of thing. And then I started it and it really took off, which was thrilling because, I was happy to have to have established a quiz platform on a platform that didn't really have quizzing as well. I was saying it's like TV. What's TV without quiz shows? So yeah, it's a joy.
But it sounds, from what you're saying, this duet thing, they're more interactive. Are people filming themselves, answering your questions, and then putting them on TikTok?
That was the thing that really excited me about the idea as well, was that people could be a contestant on their own game show, essentially. Every day they could, we all watch quiz shows and shout answer the TV, but we're still not the person who it's aimed at. The questions are being aimed at. We're sort of getting them secondhand. So I was excited that people could put themselves in the first hand, in the contestant position, through that medium. So yeah, it did really well. And when it started, it's been removed now. There was a rule that those videos, you couldn't duet videos longer than a minute. So I had to really trim down the questions to make sure they fit into that 60-second mark, which I think improved the pace and the tone of the show as well.
The quality of your questions then led to your questions popping up elsewhere, on courtesy of the ever ethical Fox Corporation.
Those, they've got a reserved spot right next to St. Peter at the Pearly Gates, haven't they, that family? Succession's based on them, and it's about people being lovely to each other, isn't it? No, so I got tagged in a video by one of my followers just sending me saying, Miles, they're nicking your questions. And I was like, oh, it's probably just a question that's the same topic as one that I've already done, because that happens everywhere in quizzing. And as you'd know,
yeah. And
for some reason, quiz brains work that they often ask about the same things on the same days. There's a few quiz channels that sprung up around the same time I started doing mine. So Muffy Morocco, shout out to her. She's a Jeopardy quizzer, and she's now on a show called Masterminds in the US. She started doing a quiz show as well on TikTok. We've often asked questions about the same thing on the same day. So I thought it was something like that when News Corp had just done something similar. But the wording was exactly the same. And I thought, hello, I'll do a bit of digging on this. I got their quiz for that day, and they were all my questions, word for word, except for one where I'd actually mucked up the facts and they'd fixed it. But otherwise, it was all word for word.
So how do you take on, or a company like that with all the resources in the world, who will say, well, you can't copyright a fact, you can't copyright a question? How do you take them on? And because you did, didn't you? You got an apology out of them.
I didn't want to. I was of the view that, there's writing is writing, and writing shouldn't be plagiarized in any sense. And they could definitely employ. There's so many people out there who want to do quiz writing, and there's not many jobs in it. So they could have definitely hired someone to write those questions. So I thought, why would they do that and pay someone who can actually do this for you? Pay a writer, pay a young female writer. We don't have any women in quizzing, something like that. So I have a few friends who are also TikTok creators. One of them is The Guardian's TikTok. The Guardian Australia has a TikTok presence with a girl called Matilda Bosley, wonderful journalist who does explainer videos. And she tweeted about it. Just, because The Guardian loves poking the bear, as it were, with News Corp. And it kind of really got some traction. It got moving from there. And there's no way. The only thing is that you can take them on if you've got a good basis. Is that the words were identical. There were no sort of. There's no way they didn't even bother fudging it. So write it in your own words or whatever. The words were word for word exactly the same, and it was 2 weeks before. I'd put them on TikTok 2 weeks earlier, and they were exactly the same. And I quickly went back through their sort of recent papers and found there'd been a few just for that week, it turned out, but they'd nicked, I think it was 27 of mine all up.
Do you think this has kind of elevated you in any way, raised your profile on TikTok or anywhere else?
No, I wouldn't say so. I did one TV show interview about it, but I just got one of those very little egg Twitter accounts saying, oh yeah, good on you, mate. Why are you racking up about your really generic questions, And I was like, yeah, which you could find anywhere. I'm like, yeah, well, fair point, but it's, but no, it's, I think the Mastermind's definitely been, and Australian TikTok has really responded well to the questions, especially since sometimes I would put a little wink or a nod in there for Australian viewers, even Melbourne viewers. So I think TikTok's definitely been my biggest platform raiser. Mastermind has, I'm still seeing the effects of that. I was out for a jog and someone pulled over their car and yelled at me, said, well done, which was terrifying for a second. But TikTok, the flip side of that though is TikTok, I once was parking in my work and I found a note on my car, and I was like, because the quiz format is me shooting questions from my driver's seat, so I put the camera in the passenger door well, and I face it and sort of direct questions like that. I found a note and I thought, oh, I've got another bloody ticket, because I get tickets all the time, I'm very forgetful like that, and it was just a note saying, hi Miles, love the quiz, keep it up, or something like that. So they'd recognize my car from me doing the quiz question on TikTok, and I've got a St Kilda bumper sticker, and I think I have I have this TikTok jacket that I have, and I think it was in the back seat or something like that. So they were right to guess that was my car, and it was very nice of them. But yeah, so TikTok appeals to everyone under the age of 24 20 or 24 to 29, and then everyone above Mastermind's more in their demographic.
So you've written for TV shows, you've been on TV shows, you've won Mastermind, you've got your TikTok presence. What next? Where does Miles go now in the quiz world?
My childhood dream has been to host a TV quiz show. So if that ever comes up, I would be eternally grateful. If anyone from BBC Studios is watching, there's a slow move. There's an underground movement to get Only Connect Australia going. So, let's bring that out. I'm not Victoria Coren Mitchell, but I'm about the fifth as smart or attractive as Victoria Coren Mitchell. But I also think that I'd love to get a few quiz, or maybe something online going as well. I've got a couple of formats just bubbling away in my head that I want to act on at some point. And I think the tricky thing about coming out with game shows is that you have to try and think of something that's player longable. And if it isn't like Mastermind, it's got to be fun to watch.
Yeah.
So I was talking to a guy who created Australia's version of Nevermind the Buzzcocks, which is called Sticks and Specs over here. I was talking to him and he was saying that the holy grail in the quiz production or the game show production land is something where you don't need to research anything, but still come up with an engaging and informative show. And that's why Countdown / letters and numbers over here is like the quiz show holy grail. Is you don't need the only research you need is a dictionary in front of your person in the corner, and that's it. So I'd love to come up with something like that. Haven't come up with it yet. Think about it a fair bit, but still I've got a couple of more ones which you would need to back up with facts bubbling away. And so host and or produce something big like that would be really and then I'd love to go back into, I haven't been on the quizzing circuit for a little while, so I'm going to go back into that at some point.
Yeah, well, I mean, best of luck with getting all of that off the ground. The good thing about the internet is it does give people, it empowers people to try things and get stuff out there, and who knows who watches and finds that stuff. The TikTok world is alien to me. I am aware of it, but there are only so many social media platforms to waste my time with, and so but I think I probably will delve a little bit deeper and see what it holds based on what you said.
It's such an interesting place to me because it really is it's so our ideas marketplace. But TikTok is what the young people are using and learning about each other and themselves on. So there's so many people discovering their sexualities, discovering different cultures, different traditions, different sides to culture, sharing plot points and cultural discussions. Really, people are broadening their horizons that way. And I'm a cusper, I'm millennial, Gen Z, I'm 1996, so I'm right on the cusp. But everyone younger than me is learning from each other through that. And I think that's why I think it's a really brilliant platform. It's always exciting to see younger people in quizzing. We've just got a 27-year-old chaser called Mara. And so 27-year-old female chaser, which is, and she's amazing as well. So, hopefully we get more women in quizzing, especially, and more younger people, because when Hard Quiz came out, and I'll send you this article, Gareth, there was a really great article written by a writer called Dan Burt about how quizzing really is the only sport the nerds get to win. So got it. I mean, you've got chess, I guess, a bit, but you can't really see what's going on in terms of the skill there. Whereas, you can see someone's doing something smart and moving something smart, but you can't really understand why they're doing it. Whereas quizzing is such a pure, they know it or they don't. So it's it's the true nerd sport. And
it really is.
So that's why I'd love to see it be more than it is, essentially, especially amongst more demographics.
Well, I think that's a brilliant note to end on. It's a positive note. And I love the fact that you're helping to make some change out there in TikTok and in the internet and in the world in general. So congratulations once more on being the Mastermind Australia Champion 2023. And we will look on with interest to see what happens next.
Thanks so much for having me on, Gareth. That means those words are still alien to me as well. It's not used to it at all. The bowl's been staring at me for about 4 months now. I'm still not used to it.
Thanks for watching this video, and if you want to find out more about Australian quizzing, then we've got videos here from Bryden Coverdale, the Shark from The Chase, and Christian Kelly from Quizzing Australia.